it's incredibly valuable for us to have the senior executives from our major banks at the table all at the same time. I don't remember that happening in a committee for me in the last 8.5 years. So thank you for taking the time to discuss this important issue. When we're looking at stability, we had the oil executives here last meeting or a few meetings ago. They talked about the importance of stability in terms of the instruments that they're dealing with, either through the government or through financial institutes. The Canadian banking industry is known for stability and regulations and that are agreed on, publicly managed, I can also add, which is unusual for a banking industry in the world. When you look at like the political pressures that we put on you, of firing the Bank of Canada president or axing the tax or things that could actually have a real impact on Canadian businesses or businesses investing in Canada. How important is it for us to be as stable as you are?
What a wonderful question. Stability is the essence of investing. Predictability. When you talk to the energy industry, when you talk to the manufacturing industry, when you talk to the EV battery industry, when we talk to the banking industry, we're making long-term commitments.
Yeah.
These aren't one-year commitments or two-year commitments. We make 4, 5, 10-year commitments, 20-year commitments, and therefore the predictability of the world you operate in is very, very important. The tax predictability, the operating, the rules, how stable are they? The government in Canada should take pride in the fact that it's a country, particularly its banking industry. We have the top banking industry in the world, and we have to protect that. It's so important to the prosperity of our economy.
My questions will be to the CEO and Executive Director of RBC, David Mckay. Mr. Mckay, in your opening remarks today, you espoused your commitments to net zero and reducing emissions, and you reiterated your recently published goal to triple renewable energy lending to $15 billion per year by 2030. And for reference, RBC currently finances fossil fuel industries in Canada with more than $30 billion per year. So if you achieve your objective without reducing funding for fossil fuels in the oil sands in Canada, RBC's clean to fossil fuel financing ratio will be less than 1-to-1. That's in 2030. The International Energy Agency states that a 6-to-1 ratio of clean to fossil fuel energy funding is necessary to achieve net zero, which, as I said, is your stated goal. So is your goal, published earlier this year, to within 6 years still fall within about 12x short of what the International Energy Agency states is necessary? Is that sufficiently ambitious?
Thank you for that question. And as we talk about renewables, it's just one part of the overall commitment to the energy grid. As we talk about the reduction in overall emissions from our economy is going to require further investment. Working with our customers to transition their businesses across every sector of the economy is going to require not only information and advice and support, it's going to require financial support as well. So we look at the overall envelope of what we will do with our clients it's quite significant. I can't put the overall ratio against that as yet, but we've actually committed to disclose our financing ratio of renewables to fossil fuels starting in 2024, as I talked about in my opening remarks, and that's an important part of the transition. So the ratio that you're quoting is just one part of the overall transition of our economy, and there's a much greater component outside of that commitment that we highlighted.
Okay, excellent. And just for reference, if it's currently $5 billion and your fossil fuel funding is at 30, then it's at 1-to-6 right now. And what's necessary is 6-to-1. So your ratio literally needs to flip upside down in order to achieve that goal. In 6 years, do you think that's possible?
I'm not sure how you're getting to 6-to-1. We're disclosing a very different
ratio
than that currently.
Yeah, I can reemphasize.
No, I know you're 30-to-5, but I don't reconcile that. So I encourage you. We are disclosing that ratio, that financing ratio. We will show you how we calculate that. I could submit that to you after this committee meeting. But that ratio is based off a global standard that we are using to disclose. So we're being very transparent about our journey because it's important to your question.
From my constituent, many of them are angry. They're worried. They find it hard to reconcile your net zero commitment with the constant increase in investment in fossil fuels sector. And the Transition Pathway Initiative assessed that Canadian banks score very poorly for their transition to net zero compared to their peers. So my question, Mr. Dodig, how are you measuring real progress for your organization that include interim target, not just the objective of 2050, but real progress in the interim?
Madame Chatel, thank you for your question, and thank you for your service to our country. I recognize that many Canadians are anxious about what lies ahead in the transition. How will this all play out? How will it benefit the environment? How will it benefit their own economic security? And I want to assure you that at CIBC, our team works with our clients to ensure that our path to net zero is aligned with their path to net zero. We've signed the Net Zero Banking Alliance, pledging to be net zero by 2050. And for us to achieve that, we need to achieve that as a bank on our own, but we also need to achieve it with our clients. So we work with them, regardless of their size. And we start with the oil and gas sector, the energy sector, the automotive sector, and we continue to move on to understand what are their targets to 2050, what are their interim targets, are they highly aligned with our own, and if they don't have a plan, we work with them to achieve that plan. And I'm very encouraged by the interim targets that we're achieving so far. There's more work to do. We've set those targets for 2030. I would say that in most instances, we're ahead of plan with our clients, and we remain committed to that 2050 net zero goal.
Thank you very much.